Okay, so time out for a second. All right, time out. Originally our plan, which we of course ran ourselves into problems with, our plan was to come over and get set up and do a demonstration talking about the launch of the rocket in our game, Kerbal Space Program here, right? And then we were going to set all that up for the live stream, and then we were going to watch the actual rocket launch, and then we got stuck in the museum. And I don't know if you've been in the museum before. I assume people have been in the museum?
Yeah.
You can say yes. You can respond to me.
We're in the museum.
we got stuck in the museum. There were so many cool things for us to check out. Instead of coming over here in a timely manner and getting our gear set up, we kept looking at engines and stuff. But when the engineer, who's the docent now, who worked on some of the rocket engines, said, "Do you want to spend some time walking over and checking out the engines I worked on?" You don't say, "I have to go play a video game." All right, that's not the way that goes. So again, this is the first time we've done anything like this. We have not done. I don't want my PC to be discoverable either. I don't know if y'all even saw that. I don't know if we haven't ever done this sort of thing before. It's sort of a first chance at it, and of course, as space enthusiasts, as airplane enthusiasts, as just cool stuff enthusiasts, we decided to look at cool things in the museum instead of coming over here like responsible people who are trying to do a live broadcast and actually getting this stuff set up. So we're still going to do it. We're just going to do it in the opposite order. The rocket that I was just sort of yelling over the top of was a real-world rocket, so that launch just happened. That launch just occurred in real life, right? We wanted to bring that up so we could see it. I've never seen one of those on an IMAX before. In our video game, we're going to build the same sort of rocket. And then when we're going through the video game, we can talk about all the different parts of the rocket, the different sort of phases of flight that it goes through, the different boosters and stuff like that. So I'm going to get started with you like this. Let's just bring this rumble down and put this rocket back over this way. So has anybody ever heard of Kerbal Space Program? Yay! Kerbal Space Program is a video game, right? The trick is it's a video game that's based on real physics. So it's not like you just have to tap really fast to get your rocket into orbit, or you just hit a magic button and your rocket appears in orbit. If you want to get your rocket in orbit, in Kerbal Space Program, you have to build and engineer your rocket so that it has the correct engines, it has enough fuel, it has enough energy, it can get going fast enough and high enough, and that comes down to sort of building your rocket like an actual rocket. So in order to play the game, in order to actually get things going in the game, you have to sort of learn the basics of rocket science. So at the end of the day, it's a video game, but we can use the video game to help you understand how rockets actually fly. And that's what I do for a living. My name is Das, and I do, so you'd be surprised, I do live broadcast online just about every evening. This is not my normal studio where I work from, which is why I have some technical difficulties. But every night, we'll load up Kerbal, or we'll load up another educational type of game, and we'll learn something about the real world in our video game. It may be how a rocket flies. It may be how to build and balance a plane. It may be ideas on how we're going to harvest resources on Mars. There's all sorts of different things that you can sort of learn from the video games as opposed to just, oh, I'm going to play a video game and not really think about it. I like to tell people that sometimes we sort of trick people into learning because it's, hey, come and watch us play a video game. That'll be fun, won't it? And we end up actually sneaking a little bit of educational content in for them. We're here at the museum today because we've been doing what we call a virtual field trip. All day yesterday and all day today, we were walking around the museum. We did the aviation building with the Spruce Goose and the DC-3. I'll toss that out there. Yesterday, and then today, we were inside the space building, and we have sort of a backpack set up with a camera, and we'll walk around and we'll live stream it. And since it's a live stream, as opposed to like a video that you watch sort of after the fact or something like that, you can ask us questions. So we had some amazing docents that were walking around with us and answering some questions about, we spent, what, 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours at the SR-71 with our docent who was answering questions about the SR-71 and walking around the plane and sort of looking at things and just explaining all the different systems. We looked at some of the engines, we went to the Titan missile silo, we got lunch, which was nice. I mean, we didn't get lunch yesterday, so I feel like I need to put that out there. But that's what we were doing, and as we were walking around, talking with the different docents, talking with the people who have these amazing stories and bits of information and stuff like that to share with us, chat on the phone, you could be watching, I know some people have their phones out, you can actually interact with us via a web chat. And it's all family friendly, and it's all sort of for kids and families to enjoy. We have moderators who make sure that the content and the thing that the other people are saying is okay for families and kids to be involved with. But the whole idea is that from standing at sort of one location, I can share content. I can share what the inside of an SR-71 looks like. I can share the Spruce Goose with people who might not ever be able to experience something like that in real life. So that's sort of our concept. The virtual field trips, doing these live streams, letting people chat. Like, it even comes down to, you're at home and you see something like, whoa, what did that label say? Hydrazine? Did we get the camera and we're like, I don't know. What did it say? Hydrazine, you're right. So that's sort of our concept, and this is the first time we've done this sort of thing. I work with museums on a regular basis, but we've never been in a theater like this before, and we've never tried to do the live stream at the same time we do the theater, right? So this is sort of a first for us, and of course we need to, I'm not going to say we need to be less enthusiastic about our museum exhibits, because we just need to allocate an entire day to come and get set up. So I appreciate you all hanging out. On the screen behind me right now, we have our basic Kerbal rocket. So one of the things we'll do is we'll go to a museum and we'll set up like an interactive station where you could actually sit down on a computer and launch a rocket if you wanted to learn the basics of a rocket launch, as opposed to me just doing the presentation for you. So this is our intermediate rocket that we use at like Kids Weeks and STEM weekends and that sort of thing, where the kids will actually sit down and they'll have an instructor next to them to talk about the rocket. But we like this rocket. It's not really designed after a real rocket. It sort of has a lot of different features of a lot of different rockets, but it has good rocket features on it. So there's some things on this rocket that you may have noticed earlier. What sort of similarities do you see from our rocket that I have on the screen right now in the actual Atlas 551 launch that United Launch Alliance launched in the real world? Anybody? Just yell it out.
Solid rocket boosters.
They're solid rocket boosters. That's exactly right. So one of the first things down here on the side, you see these parts right here, these big white parts that are on the side. There's actually 4 of them if you look around the rocket. Those are the solid rocket boosters. They're SRBs, solid rocket boosters. Sometimes you'll hear them referred to as SRMs, or solid rocket motors. You may also hear the term strap-on motor. So the idea with these SRBs is you build a rocket, and it's got this central core, and you're like, well, what would happen if I had a little bit more power on my rocket? So you put another motor on it. And you're like, what if I added 2 motors to my rocket? And then you put 2 extra motors on, and you get all the way up to 4. There's a lot of rockets that you may be, well, sort of acquainted with that have had solid rocket motors on the side. The Space Shuttle is a great example of it. So when you see the Space Shuttle launch, the big white motors that are strapped to either side of the orange tank, those were solid rocket motors. When the Space Shuttle took off, the solid rocket motors would account for, I think it's something like 80, 85, 90% of the total thrust of the Space Shuttle. So these things, when you have a rocket and you want to lift heavier things, you can strap on additional motors. The central core here, this orange tank like we sort of had in the center core of our Atlas V rocket earlier, this is a different sort of motor. The motor we have down here is not a solid rocket motor. This motor actually uses liquid fuel and oxidizer. So you think about it, right? And you're like, oh, my car. When I need my car to go somewhere, I put gasoline in it, we're good to go, we just drive. Why would some sort of engine or motor need 2 different types of fuels? The trick is with your car, you're driving down the road, you got your gasoline in the tank, and your car is getting another component that it needs in order for the engine to run. It's the gasoline you put in the tank, but it also has an air intake underneath the motor, or underneath the hood, I guess you could say. A jet engine works the same way. The jet engine will have jet fuel, but it has this big open part at the front of the engine, the intake. If you look at the front of the rocket doesn't actually have any sort of air intake on the front of it, right? So the rocket has to literally carry its own air. And if I right-click on this tank in Kerbal, you can see I've got my 2 different types of fuel in the tank. I've got liquid fuel, and I've got oxidizer. So fuel, we get it, right? There's fuel, we carry our fuel with us. But because there's no sort of intake, we actually have to carry our oxidizer. It's literally oxygen. And in order to get the explosion that we throw out the back of our rocket to push our rocket up into orbit, to get it going fast enough to get our payload into space, we have to carry our own oxygen with us. The trick is you don't just want a big compressed air tank that has some like air in it, you could go shh, because you can't carry as much oxygen if the oxygen is in a gaseous form, if it's a gas, right? You think of like an air tank you might have at your garage or at the service station or something, and as much as you can pressurize that air, you can only hold so much oxygen in the pressurized air. So what they do with a rocket is they'll actually carry liquid oxygen, or there's different types of oxidizers that they'll use. Liquid oxygen doesn't just get to, you don't just go out to the store and grab some liquid oxygen, right? In order for the oxygen to stay liquid, they have to pressurize, liquid? You can laugh at me, it's fine. Like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I don't say things correctly sometimes. They actually have to compress and chill the oxygen gas to a very, very low temperature so that it maintains a liquid state that they put in the tank. And it's sort of weird, like on a real rocket, you just don't have one fuel tank that has liquid fuel and oxidizers are kind of mixed up. It's like, fill it about halfway up, with this third of the way up with liquid fuel, and maybe put some oxidizer in. On a real rocket like the Atlas, there's 2 separate tanks. There's one tank that'll be filled with the oxidizer. There's another tank that'll be the liquid fuel. And if you go over to the space building and you go down to the bottom of the Titan, you look at a lot of the engines that we had over there, the rocket engines, you'll see 2 big, massive fuel lines. And one of the line has the liquid fuel, and the other line has the oxidizer. And they mix those 2 things together in the combustion chamber. They light them on fire. They throw them out the back of the rocket to push the rocket forward, right? It's super exciting, right? The difference between the solid rocket motors and the liquid rocket motor, so this rocket motor that we have down here, this is a liquid booster, a liquid rocket motor. The solid motors are like firecrackers. Once you light them, they don't unlight. They're just lit. You can't turn them off. You can't, just turn them down a little bit. It's okay. You can design them to change how much thrust they get, but once you light the solids, they're lit and you're going. The liquid motor is a little bit more versatile. You can turn it on, you can turn it off. In fact, the actual rocket launch that we saw earlier, the Atlas 551, that upper stage is now coasting for about 6 hours. So the top part of the rocket used its motor to get up on a trajectory, and it's got a 6-hour coast phase as it coasts way high up above the Earth, and it's going to restart its rocket motor. You can't do that with an SRB. If you want to restart it, you either need another SRB that's full of fuel again, or you need a liquid motor that's specifically designed to be restarted again. As we sort of go up the rocket, you'll see there's some other stages in here as well. So there's this big, ugly sort of line in here that looks like some sort of caution tape. As we fly our rocket, we don't want to carry, just like we saw the 551. What did the 551 do when the SRBs were empty?
They ditched them.
They ditched them. They got rid of them, exactly. So it didn't want to carry that anymore. And then when the central core, when the main part of the Atlas booster was empty, what did they do with that?
Ditched it too?
They ditched it too. That's exactly right. So our rocket here on the screen is going to do the same sort of thing. When the SRBs are empty, we're going to get rid of them. When the central core is empty, we're going to get rid of it. And then we're going to basically just have this top part of the rocket still flying. It'll break in half. These are sort of, in the game, they're sort of explosive bolts. It's literally explosives that blow my rocket in half so I don't have to carry the empty fuel tanks and the engines I'm not going to use anymore. And underneath here, there's another engine you'll see. Our entire payload for this is actually a crewed vehicle, because, I mean, who doesn't love the 10-foot-tall Kerbals over here? This is a crewed vehicle, so our payload is to get these 3 little green people up into space. So at the very top of the rocket, this is where they're sitting. And can I actually do that? I can do that, can't I? Yeah, there you go. So you can see our brave little Kerbonauts. They're not humans, they're little green people, sitting up at the top of the rocket ready to go in space. You're probably saying at this point, like, all right, I get it, like SRBs and fuel and what if I wanted to learn that, I could go over to the museum and I could read the signs, right? What I'm going to do now is actually launch the rocket, and we'll go through the different phases of the rocket's flight, all right? So y'all ready for that?
Yes.
Are you ready for that? Yes. I know there's like 5 people in here, but just talk louder so it seems like there's more people. Come on, seriously. I'll go ahead and get the rocket ready to fly. I've got a fuel gauge up there. I just put that up so I can sort of see. In fact, if you hover over it, you can see the different parts in the game where the different fuel tanks are, right? And there's one more thing that I do on my rocket. There's a flight computer that we have in the game. Much like in the real world, the rocket will be computerized. It'll have computer control to help it fly straight and turn when it needs to and sort of follow the trajectory to get into orbit. I've got the same thing. It's called SAS, which technically stands for Sickness Avoidance System. So the Kerbals don't throw up all over the inside of the cockpit because it's flipping out and stuff like that. We turn on the SAS, so we've got our rocket all ready to go, and I think we're good. Y'all want to do a countdown?
Everyone go!
That's what I like. No! Be patient. Hold. So we'll start at 5. Y'all ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition! Yes! That's super boring. Where's the rocket going? Time out for a second. Remember when I said the SRBs, once you light them, you can't unlight them? What the rocket does with this real-world rocket sort of deal, we light the liquid fuel motors first to make sure that the liquid engines are working correctly. If something goes wrong and an engine doesn't start up, you don't want to go to space on like half your engines. You don't want to have maybe just the SRBs trying to pick the rocket up. So a lot of the times, a lot of different rockets, including the Atlas, will light its liquid fuel motors first to make sure everything's cool. And then after a second or two, when all the computer safety checks make sure that all the little blinking lights are blinking in the right order, then we can actually release the rocket from the clamps and light the SRBs. Remember, once we light those SRBs, we don't get to unlight them. You're like, wow, that was so anticlimactic. Geez, Dust. Let's do this again. We'll revert it back to the launch, and we'll do the countdown again. And this time, I'm going to start the liquid engine at T-2. So we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2. I'll start the liquid engine. We'll make sure that the liquid engine actually starts up. Spoilers, in the game it always starts up. It's not like it's going to have a failure or something like that in the game. And then when we get to 0, I'll actually light the SRBs and we'll let the entire rocket go into space. So same thing, turn the throttle up, turn the fuel panel out, get that ready to go, and I won't trick you this time. Alright, ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition! And there, can you all even hear me now?
What?
Exactly, there you can see in the middle, I can turn it down a little bit, but I don't want to. You can see our liquid fuel motor in the middle, and you can see the solid rocket boosters on the outside, sort of pushing our rocket up into orbit. I know that's super loud. I guess I could zoom out like that if I wanted to talk to you. So another trick here, if I want to go into space, I can't just go straight up. If you're out on the playground or you're out in a safe place, a parking lot or whatever, and you try to jump as high as you can, you're like the world-class best jumper ever. If you jump as high as you can possibly jump, what's going to happen? You're going to fall right back down again. Why are you going to fall back down again? Because of gravity, exactly. So our rocket can't just jump straight up. If we want our rocket to not just get into space, but stay in space, we've got to sort of lean it over. Don't need those anymore, so we can just drop those. So as I do my flight here, I should be leaning my rocket over. Now, because I'm explaining it at the same time, I didn't lean it over as soon as I should have. If you saw that Atlas, as soon as the Atlas took off earlier today, what did it do? When it was just off the pad, when did it start to lean over?
Immediately.
Right away, it immediately started to lean over, and I'm doing a terrible job this time. We should already be way out to the side, so I'm just going to sort of move it around. This is another cool thing that we can sort of see here. You see that engine? You see how they're sort of moving to the side? That's the engine gimbal. When we were down at the Titan rocket earlier, we got that big engine, we pushed it to the side, and we said that's how the rocket gimbaled to the side. You might wonder why you want to gimbal your rocket engine, and I don't even know, is that so loud that y'all can't hear me? I don't know. What you do is you change. That's so much better. You change exactly where that engine is pointing, and as you change the engine bell sort of configuration, you change exactly where you're applying the thrust to the rocket, and that little bit of difference, I mean on the Titan I think it was 5 degrees of gimbal, you just turn the bell a little bit, and the imbalance between where you're pushing on the rocket and where the rocket's mass is allows you to actually turn the rocket. So when I made that rocket sort of lean over, I was able to do that because I think it actually is still going to work because we're in a video game here. I was able to actually gimbal that engine like that. And changing exactly where that exhaust is coming out allows me to change the direction of flight of the rocket, sort of lean it over. Now again, we should have done that a lot sooner, so let's see if we can do this. This is all empty. You see the fuel tanks, no more fuel. What should we do with it?
Ditch it.
Dump it.
Ditch it, or maybe try to reuse it if you're with a different company launching rockets. This one we're just going to ditch and get rid of like that. So another cool thing, what are we over right now? The launch pad is actually down here. You can just barely see it on the bottom of the little grassy area down there. I launched and I got rid of that stage, but where is the stage going to end up?
The ocean.
It's going to fall down to the water, as opposed to launching over Orlando or over Colorado or something like that. That's the reason that we actually launch out of Florida. We have it on the very east coast, the rocket takes off, and it leans over the Atlantic Ocean, and the empty stages, previously the empty stages just fall into the Atlantic. Sometimes the empty stages don't fall into the Atlantic anymore. They'll actually land on a barge, or they'll come back another way. Everybody knows what I'm talking about there. There's another sort of thing as we're going through our launch here that we can talk about. We saw on the Mercury diagram on the wall, this tower on the top. That tower is the escape tower, and the purpose of that tower is to pull the astronauts off the top of the rocket if something went wrong. So if we had sort of an issue with the rocket, like an explosion or something like that, that tower would literally yank the astronauts off the top. Not just the astronauts, but their entire pod. We'll show you that on the screen again. I don't need to carry it anymore, and if there's a piece of something that I don't need to carry, what should I do with it?
Ditch it.
Get rid of it. All the extra mass is mass that I don't actually need to carry with me. So I'm going to stage that thing off, and it's going to end up down there again. Again, it's going to end up in the ocean instead of landing on somebody's house or like a mall or something like that, right? And we're going to continue getting our upper stage sort of pushing us into orbit. Now, if you noticed, we got a little bit of information up here, and you can see my vertical speed is negative. That actually means that I'm falling back down again right now, right? I don't want to fall down if I'm trying to stay in orbit. This isn't the best launch ever, I'll tell you, especially because that just happened. This is out of fuel. We were using that to sort of lift us up again. Let's get rid of it and expose the inner stage, get rid of that. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Turn that on, and let's see if we can't make orbit. Right now, we're on a suborbital trajectory. So you sort of see how we have something that kind of got up into space. Did we actually get into space? We did kind of get into space, but we're not going to stay in space. Gravity is going to pull us back down towards the ocean, and our little capsule is going to end up falling in the ocean. We don't want to do that. So what I'm trying to do now, I'm trying to actually lean my engine up a little bit like this, right? So some of my engine is going to help pick me up, trying to get rid of that negative vertical speed that's falling down towards the planet. At the same time, I don't just want to turn the rocket like this and fly it like that. Certainly I could get rid of my vertical speed a lot faster if I just pointed my engine straight down, right? But just doing that isn't going to make me stay in orbit. If I want to go towards orbit and stay in orbit, I have to get going around the planet. And so you can see I sort of leaned my rocket over on its side, and I get it going faster, and I get it going faster, and I get it going faster, and the faster and faster I get, the better I get at missing the Earth, or the Kerbin, I guess you could say in this one. Because I want to stay in space, I can't just magically make gravity stop. When you go up on the ISS, right, and you see the astronauts floating around on the ISS, and you see them doing the cool stuff with the juice packets and then the water and then spinning the tools and stuff like that and doing backflips, it doesn't mean that there's no gravity on the ISS. The ISS is still 100% affected by gravity. It's always being pulled down, right? If we want the ISS to stay in orbit, it has to keep going around the planet. And this is sort of tricky to get. In order to stay in orbit, I have to fall towards the planet, but miss it. I can't stay still in orbit, unless I'm where the satellites are going today, right? So what does that even mean? You're like, well, Das, that doesn't make any sense. What do you mean you have to miss the planet? Look at the trajectory of this spacecraft. We leaned that thing over, and we blew up our dead Curbosaurs, and we threw them out the back of our rocket engine to get that thing going really fast. Why did I need it to go fast? Because I wanted to go around the planet. Well, how does that help anything? Gravity pulls me down towards the planet constantly. It never stops. You can't get away from it, right? But as gravity pulls me down, I go this way around the planet. Now, if I'm going in this direction, what's the planet doing? If we look from the top down, what exactly is that planet doing right now?
It's pulling you.
It's changing. What's it? Is it
Bending.
It's bending. It's curving. So the Earth, contrary to some people's belief, if you read YouTube comments, the Earth isn't just a flat thing. The Earth is a sphere, oblate, spheroid, whatever, right? The Earth is actually, the surface of the planet is curving away from us. And the trick to staying in orbit is as I go around the planet, and as gravity curves my trajectory, I want the planet to curve away from me. So literally, I go in this direction, I fall down towards the planet, but the planet curves. And then I end up over here, and I go this direction, going pretty fast. Right now, in the game, we're going 2.3 kilometers per second, right? I go off in this direction, gravity pulls me down, and then I miss the planet because the planet curves. And then I end up over here, I keep going in this direction, gravity curves my trajectory, but the planet curves too. So the entire art of staying in orbit is to get going high enough, so you don't have any drag from the atmosphere, and fast enough so that the planet literally curves away from you as gravity pulls you down towards it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody here plays Kerbal, right? So, of course it makes sense. Like,
Dust,
you know.
Dust, technical thing?
Yeah.
The only thing that the stream can see right now is the camera feed.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, that's correct? Okay.
Yes. Does it
Then
have audio?
I'll get more of it. But
Yeah, whatever you want to do
they
with
were
it.
like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, I just want to make sure. So, they're fine.
Yes, I did that on purpose with the big nav wall behind
Okay,
me.
I think you're still doing
And I guess we never did get audio on the stream, did we?
Yes, audio's been up.
We do have audio on the
Yes.
stream.
Yeah.
So the trick that I pulled at the last second was I unplugged it from the stream computer and I plugged it directly into the backpack like we've been running the rest of the time. Chat, hi, by the way, I was doing the sort of launch thing. I don't know if y'all could hear me or whatever, but that's what we've been sort of doing here. Sorry for ignoring you. A little bit of a time crunch. So the trick is, on our little spacecraft, which we kind of roughly have in orbit, we need to get the spacecraft going high enough and fast enough so that it'll stay in orbit, stay in space. If you don't get going high enough, the atmosphere will drag you back down again. If you don't get going fast enough, gravity will pull you towards the planet faster than the planet curves away from you. So if you want to stay in orbit, you have to get going high enough and fast enough in order to stay in orbit. So we've got some other things to demonstrate on our spacecraft here, right? Remember, this was a crude. Hey, look, the moon. Nice. In Kerbal, you can actually go and land on the moon. This spacecraft shouldn't land on the moon because it's missing landing gear. But on our spacecraft, because it was a crewed mission, we have our little Kerbals inside of it right now, right? What do I need if I'm in space? What should I take with me on my rocket in order to be comfortable in space? What sort of things might I need?
Snacks.
Snacks are good. I like that. That's a very Kerbal answer. Snacks.
Oxygen.
Oxygen is good. Is it hot? Is it cold in space? Trick question. Sorry. It's neither.
Yes.
It's neither because there's nothing there to take a temperature of, right? But you don't want your astronauts to get too hot or too cold, so what else might you need? Some sort of air conditioning, some way to get them hotter or colder. All of these other things, I mean, you need fashion, of course, you need lighting, you need power to run your instruments and stuff like that. All of those things would require you to have some electricity. What are some different ways that I could get electricity if I'm up here in space? I can't just run a long extension cord that goes 2,300 meters per second and plug into the ground. What could I use to get some electricity?
Solar panels.
Solar panels. So on the spacecraft that we've put together here, which is kind of an Orion sort of thing, I've actually installed solar panels and some battery to store my electric charge. Let's see if I remember what the button is. Is it 6? Please don't abort. Yeah, all right, cool. So we can actually deploy some solar panels, and the solar panels will run, they'll point out towards the sun. It's not good if they're in the shade. Let's just point the entire craft around that way. There you go. And the solar panels can be used to charge up our batteries so we have our life support running. We're scrubbing the CO2 out of our atmosphere. We've got lights so that we look very nice while we're flying. That's not actually why. It's like the instrumentation and stuff is why you need the electricity. But our astronauts that we've put roughly in orbit, they're kind of in orbit. It's close enough. Chat, if anybody's screaming, oh, you're above 70 or you're below 70. I know. Come on. We're just sort of going with it. We have our different solar panels. Now, another cool thing, and I'm just sort of winging this here, we don't have a space station up in the save right now. But if we did, we could use this little capsule sort of as a crew transfer vehicle to take our Kerbals up. So that's a whole other presentation. How do we launch a rocket and actually get it to meet up with the space station, right? But up on the front of the thing, we have a little bit of a docking port that we could actually approach the space station. We could sort of dock with the space station or be berthed with the space station if that's the way that we are. We could actually then transfer our crew out, and we could do crew rotations just like we do in real life. We've also got these little things here. Who can tell me what these are right here?
RCS.
RCS, thank you. I like it. I've stacked the crowd with people I know who know the answers. Like, I know you can answer this question for me. I won't just be left hanging. On our spacecraft, in order to move it around, we don't just like magically sort of move it around like I've been doing. On real spacecraft, when we actually want to move them, we'll be using RCS. That sort of gives us a little rocket engine that helps us pitch or yaw the spacecraft. So you can see, if I want to yaw, those things go in different directions and sort of push the spacecraft around that way. If I want to pitch, now that doesn't look very efficient, but come on, just roll with it. I can pitch the spacecraft up and down. And if I want to roll the spacecraft, I can do them, and you can see how they're going in opposite directions right now, see? If I want to, now, real spacecraft aren't fighter jets. They don't move around this quickly, right? I'm probably blowing through the monopropellant really quickly, yeah. Real spacecraft, when you're doing the real flights, it's very little little teeny tiny puffs. In fact, if you're ever watching NASA TV or you're watching, they'll usually have a feed up when they've got a cargo ship or they've got a cruise ship like a Soyuz going up there and sort of docking with the ISS, the International Space Station. Watch. Look for these little thrusters, and every now and then you can see a psh, psh. Every time I see that on the feed, because they stream that a lot of the times, every time I see that I'm like, whoa, you can see the RCS going as the actual spacecraft approaches the actual space station. You'll just see, not like a big, like we do in our video game here, but just little teeny tiny puffs of propellant that come out in order to move the spacecraft around. We talked about the solar panels, we talked about the reaction control system, we talked about the docking port if we wanted to go up and dock at the space station. Let's go ahead and close that now. That should be good. I mean, we do still have fuel. I've got this spacecraft sort of set up in two pieces right now, right? There's the part where the Kerbals are up in the front. I guess we're going to say that's the front. There's no front in space, Das. Somebody always says that. Like, I'm surprised somebody hasn't yelled it at me yet. And then in the back, we have sort of the service module. That's the same way that actual rocket ships can be configured. Rocket ships. Actual spacecraft is the good way to say it. Can be configured sometimes. You've got your life support and you've got your crew up in the front, and then you keep your fuel, you keep your volatile substances, you keep your batteries and stuff like that back in the back like this. Why would we do that? If I want to come back down to the surface of the planet, I mean, if I was in space, as long as I had snacks and electricity and maybe like an internet connection, I don't know that I would want to come back down. But once we want to bring our actual crew back down in the real world, it's not a great idea to have the fuel tanks and the engines and all this sort of stuff with us. So in a spacecraft design like this that maybe doesn't look like a space shuttle, which is a whole different ball of wax, we have the service module with the engines and solar panels in the back, and we're going to separate them out. So in order to go back home, I'm going to time warp. That's the other cool thing about the game. In real life, we don't really get to time warp. We just get a black screen, and we have to wait for 6 hours for United Launch Alliance to tweet out that the mission is successful. In the video game, we can actually speed up time so we don't have to sit here the entire time. And I'll bring this around to about there. A luxury that we don't have in the real world. So in order to get into orbit, I had to get high enough and fast enough. I had to accelerate so that my orbital velocity made me miss the planet as gravity tried to pull me back down. If I want to come back down again, instead of speeding up, what do I need to do?
Slow down.
I need to slow down. That's exactly right. So when I slow down, I get worse and worse at missing the planet. I get better at hitting the planet. In order to do that, we're going to get our spacecraft to load in there. Wow, that is pretty. God, that's... sorry. It's nice. It's CGI. I know it's CGI. It's a video game. In order to slow down, I'm actually going to use my reaction control system to sort of push my spacecraft around backwards, and I'm going to point what's called a retrograde, right? Retrograde basically just means point the spacecraft backwards. And when I point my spacecraft backwards, I can actually turn my engine on, like that, and slow myself down. You can literally see the orbital velocity decreasing. And as the orbital velocity decreases, if we come over here and we watch our orbit, we get worse and worse at missing the planet. And you can see this line gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Let's see if we can zoom in. And eventually we slow down enough that we start to actually hit the planet. So it's kind of hard to see that blue line there, I think. But there you go. You can sort of see the blue line ending in the ocean right there. So in order to stay in orbit, I go faster. In order to come back down from orbit, I don't point at the planet and be like, oh, I want to fly towards the Earth. I point backwards relative to the direction that I'm going, and I light my engine and I slow myself down. That's just the way orbital mechanics works. If you look at the back of one of the Mercury pods, you'll see the retro pack on the back of it. There's a heat shield on the back of the pod, and it's got a little motor that it would use to sort of burn it or bring itself back down out of orbit. The Gemini capsules had the same thing. Even the space shuttle, when the space shuttle wanted to come back down, it needed to slow down so that it got better at hitting the planet. So that's what we've just done here. In addition, when I said that we didn't want to have the fuel tanks and the solar panels and stuff with us, this spacecraft is designed to separate. And that staging doesn't look exactly fantastic. Let's fix that right quick. I'm going to use the explosive bolts in the middle of the spacecraft, and I'm going to separate out like that. So these parts, we have the service module that's going to burn up in the upper atmosphere. Hopefully it would be empty of fuel. We wouldn't have a bunch of fuel or anything like that left anymore. The solar panels of our course are going to get torn apart. That part is not designed to come back down again. That other little ring that you saw go, that was just a Kerbal piece because I think that piece was prettier. The latest release, of course, we haven't updated this craft for the latest release. But that other ring was just the part of the separator that got us separated. And then we have the remainder of our pod. So again, we have our Kerbals inside there. Whenever we come down, what's going to happen? You've seen the pictures, you've seen like the fire around the spacecraft. What's going on? Does anybody know?
You're going to ionize the atmosphere.
We're going to ionize the atmosphere. Thank you, Kerbal audience. Whenever we come down, you've got not a lot of atmosphere up where the spacecraft is right now. But the closer we get down to the surface of the planet, the more and more atmospheres there are going to be. We're still going 2.2 kilometers per second. And going 2.2 kilometers, I mean, the SR-71 was really impressive. I actually can't tell you how many kilometers per second the SR-71 went. Chat, somebody tell me how much that is. How many kilometers per second did the SR-71 go? Even the SR-71, we were talking about it heating up, and the windows would get hot. You wouldn't want to touch them. The skin of the aircraft, they had to have special fuel to withstand the heat. This spacecraft is going even faster, so it's going to be pushing its way through the atmosphere and start to heat up. We don't want our astronauts, or our Kerbonauts, whatever we want to call them, to be affected, melted, or otherwise cooked by the atmosphere as we go through it.
We love you, Dad.
Thank you for coming through. We appreciate you. So in order to protect the astronauts, what do we have on the bottom of the spacecraft?
I believe
Have
it's
a heat
shield.
shield. So this heat shield that we have sort of down here is designed to take some of the heat and protect the astronaut and the rest of the parts that keep them alive as they come back down through. Now, one of the sort of misconceptions is like, oh yeah, it's friction. We're rubbing against the air so quickly that we're creating a lot of heat because it's like friction, like you rub your hands together, right? What was that? I guess I said that pieces were going to blow up somewhere. Yeah, it's the rest of the spacecraft down there somewhere. Yeah, back there behind us. That must be the other part sort of being destroyed by the atmosphere. Unlike our carbonauts, because we've done this correctly. It's not actually friction with the air. Thank you, explosion. That makes the heat here. If you've ever used like one of your little canned air, right? You blow the crumbs out of your keyboard because you're not supposed to eat at your keyboard, but we're all busy people, so we eat lunch at our keyboard, right? And you get one of those little canned air things and you can blow out the keyboard. What does the can do when you use the canned air? What happens?
It's cold.
It gets cold because you've got compressed air. Thank you. See, I like it. You've got compressed air in the can, and you spray it on your keyboard to clean out the crumbs, and you're decompressing the air, which makes the can cold. This is the opposite of that. As we go through the atmosphere, the spacecraft says, hey, atmosphere, get out of my way. And it actually shoves the atmosphere to the side, which compresses it. And when we compress the atmosphere, it heats up. So we get this sort of re-entry heating, the shock heating on the outside of our spacecraft, which will get so hot that it would melt the typical components. If you had like an aluminum plane or something like that, you couldn't take, as good as the plane is, you couldn't bring a DC-3 back down from orbit because it would melt, right? So in order to protect ourselves, we have this heat shield. Interesting thing about the heat shield, a lot of times it's a cork sort of material, and it literally burns off. It's ablative is the way you say it. So it's an ablative heat shield that boils or burns off. In the act of taking that material that you've made your heat shield out of, in burning that and sort of getting it off your spacecraft, helps dissipate or control the heat that doesn't get transmitted up to the pod. Now, you still wouldn't want to like stick your hand or a hot dog out the window or anything like that and cook it, because you're still going ridiculously fast. But we use the heat shield and we use the sort of spacecraft in the atmosphere to slow us down. You'll notice that now my speed is only 280 meters per second, right? Where's the Space Center? I feel like I'm over the ocean right now. I'm definitely over the ocean. We went from 2.2 kilometers per second to 0.27 kilometers per second. What slowed me down? I didn't have my engines. I didn't have wings. I didn't pop a parachute. But yet I've lost 2 kilometers versus velocity. What was it that actually slowed me down right now?
Aerobraking.
The atmosphere, exactly. The act of shoving that atmosphere out of our way not only heats up the atmosphere, but it takes energy to do that. And as I shove the atmosphere out of the way, it acts on the spacecraft and it actually slows me down a little bit. So we don't have to have a rocket engine that slows the pod all the way down. We can use the movement through the atmosphere to sort of slow us down. It's almost like
Parachutes.
I should probably have this too as well. It's almost like a parachute, which is a nice time for a parachute. We use this sort of flat bottom of the spacecraft and the air getting pushed out of the way by the flat bottom of the spacecraft to slow ourselves down. And then when we get going slow enough, we can deploy larger surfaces, these big parachutes that we have coming out of the top there, that'll hopefully slow us down the rest of the way. It looks like we're about 300 meters up, 400 meters up, and these big parachutes will sort of take us down the rest of the way to the surface of the ocean. So, in a nutshell, that is the basics of sort of launching a rocket, talking about the SRVs, talking about the different types of fuel, getting rid of pieces that you don't need anymore. I know there are other options besides just dropping in the ocean. I get it. That's why I'm not reading chat right now. Getting all the way into orbit. How do we stay in orbit? Once we're in orbit, how do we stay comfortable? We use the electricity. We deploy some solar panels. There's some other options as well, like maybe a nuclear generator or maybe a fuel cell or something like that, that you get power for your spacecraft. And then how do you get back out of orbit? You slow down again, because in order to stay in orbit, you go fast. In order to come back down in orbit, you slow down. And then we slow down with the aerobraking. We have the heat shield to protect us, and eventually we splash down to the ocean. Even this is a teaching moment. We've splashed our spacecraft down in the water. Right now, There are no operational, should I say, spacecraft. There's no actively used spacecraft that splash down to the water. Right now, the spacecraft in the real world that take astronauts up and down to the space station, cosmonauts, is the Russian vehicle. It's the Soyuz. The Soyuz doesn't splash down in water. The Soyuz actually lands on land out there in Kazakhstan somewhere. When we see the video footage from that, the Soyuz will come down on land versus the water. There's different sort of schools of thought. Oh, the water is softer than the land, or a bigger target to hit, versus it's easier to get trucks and people to the land as opposed to having to have an aircraft carrier come and pick you up. All of these different things, we can take this, and like we do on the regular shows, we could talk for an hour about different ways that you recover the spacecraft. Maybe you have a spacecraft that has some wings on it, and maybe instead of landing in the ocean or crashing into the land, you fly back to a runway. Space shuttles fly. I use that term loosely for the space shuttle. You have a spacecraft that can maybe have a little bit of cross range to fly like a plane and land. Any other things? I mean, you might have a spacecraft or a rocket like SpaceX does, where they have the booster sort of turn around and it retains the fuel tanks and it retains the engines and it's got landing legs on the side of the thing, and you actually land back at a landing pad or on a barge or something like that. So every one of these different topics that I've sort of like rushed through right now, we could spend tons of time. In fact, we do spend tons of time whenever we do our broadcast from the regular studio, not sort of standing in front of the IMAX.
I can think of 4 vehicles in that building that were designed to return from space.
You can think of 4 different vehicles? What were the 4 vehicles?
So you've got the Apollo pod.
The Apollo pod, yep. Underneath the helicopter, right?
The helicopter.
Okay, in the space building.
You got Mercury.
You got Mercury, yep.
There's the Vostok capsule that's up there.
The Vostok capsule, which the Vostok, they'd actually like climb out and jump with a parachute, right?
And the X-38.
And the X-38. There was an X-38?
Yeah, sure was. And the Vega probe.
There was an
It's
X-38
X-38 or
somewhere
burger
apparently
stuff,
as well.
sorry.
So 4 different spacecraft in that building alone that could return back from space.
Someone in chat mentioned that the Dragon cargo capsule lands in the water currently.
But it's not operational. Is it?
Cargo
Oh, it's
capsule.
a
The cargo
variant.
capsule.
Cargo
Thank
variant.
you. Yes, I had crew on the brain, but you're right. The Dragon lands in the water right now. Thank you very much, chat. I knew someone would correct me.
Someday it'll.
Excellent.
True.
I appreciate. I was trying to like hedge my bets by saying operational, but I had crew on the brain because we were talking about the Kerbals coming down. You're absolutely right on that one. And then other cargo capsules like the Cygnus that takes cargo up to the ISS, that one doesn't even come down. It's not recoverable, so that's one of the cool things about the Dragon capsule versus the Cygnus. Instead of just burning up in the atmosphere, you can return science back down from the space station. Thank you, chat. You're exactly right. I appreciate it. So, what should we do next?
Build Atlas.
ULA pack.
Atlas.
Build a ULA pack. That sounds good. I
You
think
will
that
have
that's...
to show Julia your SR-71.
Yes, we do have an SR-71 we could fly as well. I don't know if we have it on there.
I mean, if you have
We'd have to download it. We could download it from Kerbal X and we could fly the SR-71. I mean, we could basically just be in here until they kick us out, right? What time is it?
Who do you think's going to kick you out?
It is.
The museum's closed, so it's kind of ours now.
The museum just closed, so it's kind of ours right now.
Yeah.
Oh, don't tell DOS that.
I know.
DOS mom says hi.
Das Mom says, hi Mom. Hi Mom. How's it going? The camera's somewhere over there, isn't it?
It's right over here in the
Hi,
middle.
Hi,
Yeah.
how's it going? Anyways, again, y'all, this is I haven't been reading chat. We're in full-on presentation mode. We're at the Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum. This is the first time we've done something like this. I've done sort of the live presentation before, but a little bit flustered at the beginning, honestly, to get the technical stuff. I appreciate y'all hanging out with the technical difficulties and the lack of sound. I just realized I could unplug the cable and plug it in directly so y'all could actually hear what I was saying now. Up behind me, you see the massive nav ball. That's because we're playing Kerbal on the IMAX right now, and we have like a live studio audience. It's not really a studio audience, I guess. I'm not just yelling into the blackness, which is sort of all I can see. I can't see anyone out there right now. Should we load up the ULA pack?
Did you go?
Yeah,
ULA
ULA pack.
pack. All right, good deal. So we'll just revert this all the way back to the launch pad, put that one back over there. And there's so many different pieces of the rocket. That's why this is sort of a training rocket. We barely talked about the launch escape system. We barely talked about the little turbopump exhaust simulators that we have down here that allow us to do roll. I mean, the realism-inspired physics that we have give us so many different opportunities to teach about the basics of rockets or the basics of planes. I think we're probably going to have to make a DC-3 in Kerbal at some point.
Make a DC-3 shuttle.
I think, I mean,
Or SSTO.
some point is probably you got to start it on Tuesday.
We got to start it as soon as I get back. Nice. So there's so many different cool things that we can sort of talk about. And we haven't even gotten into the math. At the same time, the game is sort of simulating the rocket equation, and it's simulating thrust to weight, and it's got some drag and aerodynamics and all those sorts of things. There's so many different things that we can use the game to sort of teach for, which is why we're like, hey, let's play a video game, but then we actually end up learning some rocket science. What I need to do is come all the way back out, quit to main menu. We'll just leave that there. Yes, don't show me that again. Thank you. Exit to main menu. Yeah, an SSTO. And I just see some things over here, like on occasion, I haven't been reading chat, y'all. I know I've sort of focused on being here. Let's resume the save. That's the ULA mod test. And we did install the fix, right? Yes. Yes. Will it load? I feel like I could do like massive. Okay, never mind. I was going to do like.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb.
Thank y'all. So this should be our ULA pack. Did I just click on the right thing or no? I think so. Oh, it's just a different. Okay. We might have already been in that one. Let's go into the vehicle assembly. Again, in the game, in Kerbal, you have all the different buildings. You have the hangar, and you have the VAB, the vertical or vehicle assembly building, whatever you want to call it. And let's see if we can't toss together, and I'm going to need some help on this one. Delicious, contain lost or invalid parts because we don't have the Dr. Pepper thing, right? Yeah, there's the Test Atlas 401. So these are all of our different rockets. That's a 511. There's a 551 right there. Let's load that thing up. So this...
That's just me
Wait.
being old and moving.
It's just you being old and moving. Nice. It looks like I'm going to have to do some more things to load this spacecraft in. But this is our United Launch Alliance mod. I think we still have the satellite at the top, and that's what I wanted to sort of grab. And we'll take the rest of the rocket. No, we won't, apparently. Game really didn't like that. Look, it doesn't want us to do that. All right. Well, let's just make a new rocket like this. And why does that say symmetry radial in the middle of the screen? I don't know what to do with that is.
That's a stock feature.
Let me see if I can't cobble together an Atlas. Yeah, that's working now. I tried to load in a version, and we probably shouldn't have loaded that. We probably should just build it from scratch. Of the Atlas rocket. So we have the booster, right? This is the center core of the Atlas. It has the liquid fuel and oxidizer like we were talking about before. Help me out with the engine order here, right? Let's go over here to the ULA pack. Let's go all the way over here to ULA like that. And do we have the engine coming up next?
I usually start with Centaur, but you can start with the booster.
Yeah, up on the top. I'll reroute it
Yeah,
when
yeah.
we get there. So we'll put the RD-180 down on the bottom. Let's zoom in like that. That's the Kerbal RD-180 up on the IMAX screen, which is kind of cool. We have the boat tail back there, don't we? It's not it. There we go. Is that the thermal protection RD-180? There we go. That looks good too. And then we can scroll up this way. And what was our next piece? The interstage, right?
Next stage is going to be interstage.
So that's it right there?
You're doing 500? Yep.
Yep, looks good. I would like to do a 500, I think. And you can see that's sort of like a hollow tube, right? Where we sort of we have room to put other rocket pieces. This interstage will protect the rocket engine as we're doing the launch, right? So then we can grab the Centaur, right?
Nope, go back to your couplers.
Go back to the couplers.
Add your boat tail. No, couplers.
There we go.
Boat tail.
There's the boat tail. That's the next thing to add. All right, good deal. And then we'll also grab the Centaur, which is a fuel tank, right?
Yeah, make sure you don't hit the engine node when you put this one on.
All right, gotcha. It's the common core. There's the Centaur right there. The single core Centaur upper stage. So we don't know. That's why we want to do this, right?
Yep, one more down.
Reroute it to the Centaur. Take that whole thing off.
No, the...
Yeah.
This will work. This will work.
And we'll put our RL10. That one right there, right?
Yep.
There we go. And then we can put this back on.
Nope.
Nope.
Boat tail.
The boat tail first? Really?
Up one.
There we go, like that.
There you go.
I'm almost positive that's the exact same as what I just did. So we have the Centaur up there. We have the upper stage that has the liquid fuel and the oxidizer. We have the liquid fuel and the oxidizer on the main stage. We have the decoupler. In terms of payload, we'll just put like an ore tank or something up there for now. So we'll grab one of our decouplers, which is right
Payload.
here. It's not under coupling.
Payload.
Under payload?
Heidi does.
There we go. All right. This is the part we need to spend more time practicing, right? Because I've done the presentation with the other one, but we've never actually written this presentation before. And does it matter? Does that one have a decoupler? It doesn't look like it does.
Okay, so I found out that those are not going to get decouplers.
Okay.
You've got, I think there's 4 of them that do have decouplers that you can use.
Do we just guess sort of which one it is?
There's bottom full row. On
That
the
one
far
has
right
one.
has. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there we go. We'll just use that one.
I need to find a way
Alright.
to mark those.
So this is the same sort of thing that we like to do. We like to put together the presentation, so it's like, here's how we build all the Atlas 551, but since the mod's not actually released yet, we haven't quite gotten there. So I'll just grab an ore tank, over here. And I don't. Or do we remember what the payload to orbit is?
I don't.
All right. We'll just put that like that. There's no control on that, but there's control on the Centaur. The separation motors. So we've got some separation motors over here. That's these things, right?
Yep.
And I think we've got 8 of the... Hey, look at that. You put in the nodes for me so I can
It's
have
probably going to be on the far side of the booster.
the far side of the booster.
So the easy one for you to grab. Yeah, one of those two there on the edge.
Like
There
that.
you go.
And symmetry works on that? That looks like fun, but it doesn't look like a good way to launch it. Instead of actually pulling the booster back, that would just make the booster go zzz and spin in a circle. So we want to actually turn that thing this way. So the purpose of those motors, whenever the upper stage separates from the booster, those motors will fire temporarily and they'll just pull the first stage away from the upper stage. They'll pull the Atlas core booster away from the Centaur. So we've got those on. We've got our payload tank, which we fill with ore and lock down. And so the last thing that we had, remember when we had the actual Atlas up there, we had the big 5-meter fairing. Again, that's why it's a 551. 5-meter fairing, 5 SRBs, 1 Centaur engine, right? Remember when we grabbed this part here? And we had the single engine in there? That's where the 1 in 551 comes from. And I hope I didn't just break something. So the last thing that we'll do is apply the payload fairing, which is under payload. And it makes more sense if you just filter it down to ULA and go to payload like that. And we're looking for, that's a 500 medium fairing. Like that, right?
So if you right-click on that payload fairing,
Right?
you see where it says fairing closed?
Fairing closed, yeah.
Go ahead and click that guy.
Oh! Dude, what?
Nice.
It's almost like that should be stock.
That's... I think I would be happier if I had control over clicking the fairing opened or closed. That's amazing. You did that?
Yep.
Defiant did that, y'all. That's a sort of should-be stock feature. In the regular game, you just sort of hover over it, and so the fairing's always like opening and closing and opening and closing, and it's really hard to sort of work inside the fairing, as opposed to just going to expand. What does chat say about that one? I don't know. We'll see if chat says... I don't even know if they can see that right now, because it's probably just sort of me.
You
Can they see that?
The top of the frame for the camera is just above the ore tank.
Just above the ore tank?
The ore tank, yeah.
So you can actually see that right now.
Yeah.
You can see the fairing clicking open and closed and open and closed. That's cool. Right, Mimey? Okay, there you go. I saw it in Twitch chat, right, Mimey? Anyway, so we've got our payload fairing that's going to protect our... It's literally just a box of rocks that we're sending into space. We've got the Centaur upper stage. Interestingly, on the 5-meter fairings for the Atlas, the Centaur... Wait, look, here you go. The Centaur is not actually connected directly to that fairing. On the smaller ones, if we were to build a 4-meter fairing, the fairing sort of starts here at the end of the Centaur and goes up from the end of the Centaur. With the 5-meter fairing, instead of putting all the aerodynamic forces directly on the upper stage is actually inside of that fairing, and they'll have some bracing sort of going from the fairing over the Centaur. But the aerodynamic forces are put down here on the main stage. It's like when you're wearing a backpack, having something on your shoulder versus your hips, right? You don't want to put all the weight up on your shoulders. You put it down on your hips, which can carry more mass. Mass, is that the right way to say it? I guess. Keep it classy, chat. So we've got the 5-meter fairing that sort of terminates down here into the inner stage. And we can. I'm just going to keep talking and hope that nobody heard that. We have our engines down here. We have the RD-180. But the thing that we're missing still, if we're building a 551, how many SRBs do we need?
5.
5, exactly. So let's go over here to the decoupling. And what is the GEM 4X?
AJ.
Which one do you want me to use?
AJ.
Sorry?
It's the AJ60.
The A, one of them's labeled AJ60. Oh, it's the one up there on the top. Yeah, there you go. The
You
one
need to
that's up
set
the
your
top.
nodes as well.
So we can grab that thing, and we have to turn the nodes on, right?
Yep.
So we'll put that down, right-click on that, and say boosters. Do we want 0 boosters?
No, we want
No.
more boosters.
Do we want 1 booster?
More boosters.
More boosters.
No. Do we want 2 boosters?
More.
Three?
You seem to be confused. You saw a 5-5.
4? We saw a 5-5-1, so 5 boosters?
More.
5 shall be the number of boosters.
No more, no less.
So,
It only goes to 5.
setting the central core to have 5 boosters
Right
should
out.
set it up so that I have 5 different nodes. And again, when we saw it, we had a very small amount of time to see the Atlas because we were trying to get the stream going, and I probably should have just plugged the stream in like we did. I just wanted to have a little bit more. We have 3 of these on one side. Nope, that's the wrong rotation. That's also the wrong rotation. There we go.
180.
Is that right, or it's
No,
another?
flip it 180.
Yeah, that needs to swip around. So we'll flip that like that. So there's one separator. Can we get that separator?
You got it.
Two. Nope.
Go, move your mouse down. Move your mouse
Oh
down.
yeah, wait. It's way up there. There you go. Two separators. There you go. Look, I've got an IMAX screen behind me, and I'm like leaning over the laptop with the light in my face, and there's people watching, and I don't know what to do. Okay. We'll get another separator and bring it over to the other side here. Roll it like that. There's four separators.
Man, on this you can really see what the Kerbals are doing.
Yeah.
And there we've got five separators. So those are the different parts of the mechanism that actually allow us to affix the booster to the side, so when we get thrust from the booster, it helps carry the rocket up. But also they let us get rid of the boosters. When they're empty, we don't want to carry them anymore. We don't want the drag. We don't want the mass. So those five separators that we just put on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, allow us to attach our boosters. And there's the AJ60. We've only got one of those, right? Yep. There's the AJ60 up at the top. So we'll put a booster, another booster, yet another booster. Then we'll come over to the other side like this, flip the booster around, put one more booster, and a total of 5 boosters. So there we have a completely assembled but not yet programmed Atlas 5, because it's got a 5-meter fairing at the top, 5 because it's got 5 SRBs at the bottom, 1 because if we move this out of the way, it's got 1 Centaur in the Centaur, or one engine in the upper stage, one RL10C-1 engine in the upper stage is the right way to say that. So the next thing that we need to do is program everything correctly. And when we did the rocket launch earlier, we talked about lighting the liquid booster before the solid boosters, right? So we'll come over here and we'll find our RD-180. Where is it at? It's way up in the list. And the first thing that we want to do is light the RD-180. And after lighting the RD-180, we're going to want to light all of our SRBs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 SRBs in the second stage. After that, how did these decouple?
All right, so it looked like the middle one.
It was the middle one
And I'm
for
gonna
sure,
say-
but it was it 1, 2?
I'm going to say it's that one that you got your mouse on right now.
Okay, so we'll do 1, 2, and then we'll do 1, 2, 3. In chat, if you if you think that it's a different way, feel free to say it, and I just won't read it right now. So if we grab, there's the little separator in there, right? Yep, there's the middle separator, I think, like that. And we'll grab this one as well. So highlight over that separator. Do we see it? There's that one right there. We'll put like that, like that. We'll put the other separators down here, like that. And the next thing that we're going to do, we don't want to have the payload fairing go yet. So we'll separate the Atlas center booster, or the Atlas, I guess, core, from the Centaur. So we're going to want these separation motors to go to help pull that thing back. And then we're going to want that decoupler should be it, right? Yeah, that looks like the right decoupler. If not, I mean, we'll learn when we put it in the simulator and test it. And after we do that, we want the
PLF.
RL10 to go.
PLF.
Oh, that's right. No, that's right. You have to get rid of the fairing first, like that. So you open up the fairing on the 5-meter one, and then you separate the upper stage from the lower stage, and then you light the RL10, and then you separate the payload, which is literally just the box of rocks and not that exciting. Is our thrust to weight good? Our thrust to weight's 1.9.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think you're fine.
I mean, it seems legit.
You should throw a car on top of that rock.
And we'll go over here. Is it full of fuel and stuff? Yeah, it looks like it. All right, so we're just sort of playing this by ear. Let's go down here and get some launch clamps.
551 seems pretty powerful.
It's the mighty Atlas.
It's the mighty Atlas, exactly, right? We'll put the launch clamps. We'll put it way down, not through the floor, but in there. A lot less launch infrastructure with our 2 little measly launch clamps as opposed to the actual Pad 41 where they launch these things from, but make sure that we drop that in the right stage. So just like our first sort of demonstration example rocket, we've got the launch clamps and the SRBs going at the same sort of time. Does that look good? I'm not going to listen to chat. Did we miss anything? Yes? Smart remarks from the peanut gallery over here?
Okay, I didn't say this. She did.
Yes?
Her.
I didn't.
Rocket experts, please?
She just noticed that the Kerbals run like you did yesterday.
The Kerbals run like I did. Thank you.
I didn't say it.
What I said was, would it be wrong long to say that, and then he said it. So apparently,
Would it be? It's like, well, I mean, I'm just sort of joking, but
No offense.
no offense, but you run like a Kerbal DOS. Thank you.
I actually do have a legitimate question about
Yes.
the boosters. So obviously there's 5 here, so it's asymmetrical.
Right.
With this mod pack, do you have to do anything to like balance the thrust of those, or is it?
No,
just
you
work?
just strap them on this way.
Okay.
And there's enough gimbal in the RD-180s that it flies the way it's supposed to fly. Did I get
Sweet.
those correct?
So did you ask an explanation earlier about why?
I don't see anything sticking out of the side of that weird. So I think we've got them to the correct orientation. That was something that we were looking at, and this is a question that I was going to ask United Launch Alliance. It looks like the engine bells for the boosters are angled a little bit. And that's the whole, the space shuttle had the angled engines on the back of the orbiter, and that was so that the engines would actually fire through the center of mass of the entire stack, yada, yada, yada. But did we ever come up with a definitive answer? Are they actually angled? Like, are they modeled angled?
So I had to revert the changes to the model since we would have had to gone through reapproval on that.
Okay, so that's a question that we're going to go with United Launch Alliance. Are they actually supposed to be angled to fire through the center of mass, or do they just point straight down? Is there any vectoring, etc.?
Oh, you're talking about the thrust angle?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
We still need to
I think
confirm
that-
that
I
one.
think
So
the
that's
way
a great
that we have
question, and we'll just have to go talk to United Launch Alliance about it. Anything else? Are we good to go?
Good to go.
All right, let's launch the rocket.
Go for
And I
launch.
don't think that our payload is nearly big enough. This is the coolest thing ever, Defiant. Chat, I mean, seriously. That's the coolest thing ever. Let's just put another box of rocks on top of that box of rocks. That only gets us down to 1.89. Should we put another box of rocks?
You need a car.
Just more boxes of rocks. No, you know what it might be doing? We'll route the entire rocket on that and see if that changes anything. That doesn't look like it actually changed anything from a thrust to weight perspective.
That looks right for thrust weight.
Yeah.
I mean, admittedly, it's a powerful rocket.
Mighty
It's a
Atlas.
powerful rocket, and we're just literally... They're launching, like, Air Force satellites, and we're like, I don't know, just shovel some rocks into a black container and we'll send it into space.
Hey, Doss, see if someone
yes.
in chat can compute the actual, in real life height of that rocket right now.
It's almost like we were joking about making the Kerbals, like, life-size. So we have a screen that's literally big enough to make a life-size Kerbal if we zoom in correctly. Let's send this thing out. I didn't drag it down too far. Let's hit... it's like big Atlas 551 like that, and hit save, and roll that thing out on the pad.
Rocket.
So the whole rollout, like in the video game, we click launch, and it's just like, oh, it magically appears on the pad because we're in a video game, right? United Launch Alliance for the 551 that they launched earlier, they rolled that out yesterday. Usually it's about 24 hours in advance. They'll take it out of the vertical integration facility where they integrate the rocket, which basically just means they put all the pieces together, and there's a train car system. And the train car takes the entire rocket with no fuel in it and moves it over to the launch pad. It's like the slowest quarter mile you've ever seen, I think was a joke that John Gadarowski told whenever we were out there. But there we have our Atlas 551 magically has appeared on the pad. You can even see sort of the crawler way, or whatever you want to call it, where you could pretend in your mind's eye that the rocket rolled out of the VAB where it was built out to the launch pad here. But let's launch this thing. I don't know if I'll be able to talk about it much while we do it, but I'm going to throttle it all the way up. I'm going to lock the panel. I'm going to give the SAS.
Two boosters down on the roll.
Is the camera focusing, or is the camera good?
I mean, it looks good here, but
looks
it's a
good on
tiny
there?
screen. So.
Maybe just whip for a second? All right, gotcha. All right, so we'll launch this thing and we'll do the same sort of countdown we did before. Y'all ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition! Dude, that's loud! It's a little wobbly too. The floor is literally shaking in the theater right now. Am I the only one who can feel the floor shaking? That's cool.
20% volume.
It is. It's a 20% volume in the theater right now, isn't it? Just keep on leaning over. I wonder if I can just tell it to the program. Oh, stay on target. Stay on target. We may be going too fast through the lower atmosphere. It's got a little inclination problem. I'm just going to let it ride. Those SRBs a lot more quickly now. The SRBs are going to die, and we're going to get rid of them just like we did in real life. There those went. There go 2 of them. There go the other 3 of them. Oh, yeah! That looks cool right there. and we'll keep flying again. We're going to leave the payload fairing on for now, and that's going to keep protecting us from the atmosphere as we fly through it. Our very delicate box of rocks doesn't need to be going through the atmosphere too quickly, so we'll keep that going. Let's heft this thing way up. What's our apoapsis? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and switch that to orbital mode right now so we lean over a little bit. Now, real-life rockets are a lot more smooth than that. They don't just go, whoa, let's turn all of a sudden. But again, just the modeling down on the engines and stuff like that. Look at this. Can we roll? Yeah, there we go. Waggle D. Chill out. Chill out. All right, chill out. That's kind of wide. Let's just zoom out so it doesn't look so bad. That looks much better, doesn't it? What's our apoapsis? All the way up to 100? I'm just going to let it keep going. It's sort of like hunting there. You see that? The SAS? Real rockets have much better SAS than the video game SAS has, as it turns out. The coolest thing is one of the times we were watching a rocket launch with some of the ULA people, and they were like, "Oh, it's just the such and such on the computer," and it's like, "Wait, what? How do we fix that again?" So now that we've got up here, this stage is out. We can go ahead and deploy the payload fairing without destroying our precious box of rocks.
Where's the wobble?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's much less wobbly.
The wobble.
The wah.
There's
you are
the
not getting
separation. And the motors sort of pull us backwards. There's the RL-10 getting us back on track. And the cool thing here is even the RCS is modeled in. So with only a single engine in the middle, you saw when we had the RD-180s and the engine bells went like this, right, in opposite directions, that made the rocket roll about its long axis. When you only have a single engine, making it move like this will turn the rocket, but you don't actually have roll control. The Centaur upper stage gets its roll control from these little RCS thrusters. And you can see if it wants to roll itself, it uses that RCS fuel, these little teeny tiny nodules there, to get a little bit of roll. You need that lever arm from the center axis out to where the thrust is being applied in order for it to go. I think what I'm going to do is play around here and just let that coast for a second. And let's go put down a maneuver node. Remember earlier when we talked about if we want to get into orbit, we have to get high enough to get out of the atmosphere, but also we need to get going fast enough. Right now, the suborbital trajectory makes it look like I'm not going nearly fast enough. So let's plot a little bit of maneuver here. We will add a maneuver, and we'll just say go faster, go faster, go faster, until we get better and better at missing the planet. And eventually we'll get going so fast that we miss the planet on the backside there.
Dos, turn off RCS.
Is that the RCS?
Yeah.
That's the RCS.
It was in fact RCS. So that's going to be about a 3-minute burn to accelerate those remaining 650 meters per second. And we'll get this thing set up. See, we have to use the RCS here. The noise doesn't exactly match the animation, apparently. So we get set up to where we need to burn, and if it's a 2-minute and 56-second burn, let's just verify that. Yeah, they don't do that in real life. If it's a 2-minute, it's just, I don't know, just bump the engine right quick and see if it's still working. If it's 2-minute and 56-second burn, we'll start the engine at about 1:30. We want half of our burn to occur before the time that the game thinks we should do it, and half of our burn to occur after the time the game thinks we should do it. So on average, we apply all of our acceleration at T-0. That's sort of a weirdness of the game. In real life, there's much more sophisticated software that's actually launching these rockets. So this is a video game. It's a cool video game, but it's still a video game. So at about 1.5 minutes on the T-, you can see the node in. You see the node in T-2 minutes. When it gets down to about 1.5 minutes, that is when we will light our engine again. 35, 34, 33. I mean, it's a little less than 1.5 minutes. So I'll just 1, 2. Well, this was a government launch, right?
No.
Good enough. We'll do the rest of our burn there, and we'll use the Centaur upper stage to go ahead and circularize our box of rocks, our super exciting payload box of rocks, into orbit for our hopefully success. Do we have enough delta V? 800 versus 508. Yeah, we should be good to go there. Anyways, that will eventually get us better. It started coming out of the right speaker all of a sudden. Like, it'll make us better and better at missing the planet. We're going to get going so fast that the planet will curve away from us at the same rate that we sort of fall towards the planet due to gravity. And eventually we should find ourselves in a stable orbit. That's boomerang over there, isn't it? Yeah, that's What do y'all think?
Yeah, space!
Yeah, space, I like it.
Space!
Yay, space. I mean, we've done this sort of presentation before when we had like, oh, it's just going to be with launch a rocket and then ask some questions. We've never done this before with the screen behind us. I kind of feel like we can just sit here and play Kerbal for a long time with the screen behind us. People that are on the Twitch stream, I appreciate your patience and stuff like that. I know that we had technical issues, and I will completely own the fact that A, I like eating lunch, so we ate some lunch as opposed to skipping it, and B, we had such good stories, we had such good information from the docents. MLG Pro professional broadcast crew were like, no, let's go and hear some more stories instead of coming over here and setting up, which is what we probably should have done. I'm fine with it. I'm okay with it.
Oh,
I know
and
that
I'm sure you're like hours sitting in the
Yeah.
seat of an SR-71 had nothing to do with not a
No kidding. No kidding. I think we're good. Yay space. Yeah, there's like a yay space over there. Nice. 200 seconds left, and I think that for the first time we've done this sort of thing. Okay. I think. Okay. Lord's here. Take it easy. Very inspiring, entertaining stream. I appreciate you, Lord's here. Thank you so much. I do have Twitch chat up a little thing over here. Oh, there was that. I'll have to stop that in just a second. What else do we have? DOS excuses. Yeah, I know DOS excuses. That's a great excuse. Somebody who worked on building these engines was telling us stories about the engines. I'm okay with it. I can't get that sitting at home playing Kerbal, right? You clearly didn't know me. Wait, you don't know me? What's up, Thunder God? Anyways, I knew it. They went nerding out instead of setting up. That's exactly what we did. We'll cut the last engine here. Like that. Everything gets quiet. And we can deploy our payload. Wow. That's kind of cool. And skillfully deploy our box of rocks. After the skillful deployment of the box of rocks, that's when Tori Bruno would be tweeting out 126, 127 for the additional consecutive successful mission that they did. So we still have to wait. The rocket that we launched earlier today, the 551 that launched the Air Force payload, that's on a 6-hour coast phase, if I'm not mistaken. And it's got to coast for 6 hours because it's taking those payloads not up to low Earth orbit, sort of where the ISS is. It's taking those all the way up near geostationary orbit. So it's a long coast phase as that rocket sort of closes up before they declare the mission success. Sort of deal. Needs a whole week with the golden ticket magic badge. 2 days is not enough. Nice, I like it. So Twitch chat, we can chat some now. Like I said, I am reading some things over here. We need an entire week. It's so crazy how cool it is. There's so many different exhibits, and we went through, what, 4 or 5 different artifacts? And we ricocheted off like 90 artifacts that are in the space building over there. It's just, if we could sit down with each one of the things with somebody who would tell us about it for that amount of time, you could easily spend a week in the museum, sort of documenting all the cool stuff
Would
they
they
have.
want to see this again?
It's such a good problem to have.
It is.
There's so many cool things that we can share with people that a day at the museum, 2 days at the museum, 3 days wouldn't be enough to get through all the cool stuff. Which is why the best thing to do, little Evergreen plug, is to come out to Evergreen yourself and experience all the artifacts. Will KSP be a part of the museum? No, will KSP be a part of the museum? It's certainly something that we could talk about. I'm not going to guarantee that KSP could be a part of the museum, but if they need some help putting together a little bit more organized presentations as opposed to DOS is just going to sit up here and randomly talk about stuff, certainly something we could help with. This is the best example of a virtual field trip. Sable, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. Inglorious, they also have an SR-71. No, what?
No, they have an
What?
SR-71.
Oh, they have an SR-71
No.
that you can't get inside of. I mean, what sort of SR-71 is that? No, kidding. It is Devo. It's KSP on the IMAX screen. That's sort of what... We were trying to get it so you could see it, but we ended up just plugging the camera in because of some audio issues we were having. We'll have to get those things sorted out. I'm not sure why we were having those audio issues, but we just made it work. Let me scroll through some chit-chat. Cylinder of Rocks. Yeah, that's just my Cylinder of Rocks up there. Today's and yesterday's stream, what'd you say? Today's and yesterday's stream were absolutely awesome. I hope you make the highlights or publish them someplace. Oh, absolutely. No, we'll go through and we'll highlight everything and see if we can clean them up. I want to see if I can't get time to go through and add in the lower third as we walk to the different exhibits. We can put the name of the docent we talked to. We can put the name of the exhibit or what the craft is, or it'll literally just say DC3 and not a DC3. I'll just make 2 different lower third graphics, and it'll either be we're talking about the DC3 with Julia, or we're not talking about the DC3 with Julia. It'll make it less work for me to do. I do want to see if I can't go through and add all those labels in and that sort of stuff, so we have a little bit more produced sort of thing. Again, we had plans to have the lower thirds on the streams, and then a little bit of technical weirdness made us not able to put the lower thirds down there as we would have. You rock. Thank you, Devo. I appreciate it. Let's see. I'm reading through this. If I missed anything else, that looks good. Wait, Tiny DOS? Oh, because of the...
Oh, you don't know
It's like the
about that
nav
yet.
ball.
DOS is Kerbal size, and Kerbal
We were
is
joking.
Yeah.
I want to like turn around and walk through the nav ball as if it was a Stargate. Is what I wanted to do. The DC-3 is this pretty plane, that's for sure. So, are we sort of looking at the? I don't know what the deal with that is. Are we looking at the collection?
It's
Do
up to
we
you.
have
Yeah.
access to that?
Do you want to do that now? Do you want to?
Or should we do that tomorrow? I mean, it's already coming up on 6 o'clock here, right?
Yeah.
So,
So
we.
we could meet in the morning, and I mean, we could
Right, we could do.
whenever you want.
So
Do we
Chad,
have? Is that okay? Do we have access and?
You already have approval. You're good.
We're not going to be like messing up with his family schedule or anything like that.
No, the dog will be fine.
The dog will be fine.
So, also, chat will skin you alive if you don't show the A10. So,
That's true.
We do have to go see the A10 as well.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
so
I've seen it. I licked it, hugged it, and stole it already.
Right.
don't admit that. We're live right now.
Whatever. Who's gonna tell on me?
Who's going to tell on you? I know, right? We do have more things to do, y'all. We've been at the museum, the Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum, for 2 whole days. We broadcast from just after 10 a.m. yesterday all the way up until after 5 p.m. The museum's literally closed, and that's when we were shutting down the show. And then today we did the same thing. We went live a little bit after 10 a.m. It's already 6 p.m. almost here. It's 5:40 p.m. Just the massive amount of time we sort of spent doing the virtual field trips and the broadcast and stuff like that. It's really amazing. Well, just one more time, massive thanks to the Evergreen Aviation Space Museum for letting us come out here and do this. Yeah, exactly. See? I appreciate that. I got some help in chat. Whenever I say put some hearts in chat or whatever, it's also good to have like live applause and stuff like that. We couldn't have made this possible, and I think I'm looking at the camera. It's over there somewhere, right?
It's dead ahead of you.
Yeah, it's right there. Okay, it's just right there. This wouldn't have been possible without the support of the museum, not only from an access perspective, but also sort of getting us flights to come out here and the hotel rooms and that sort of stuff. Julia, thank you so much for setting it up so we could do this.
Yeah, Julia!
Yeah. Put some hearts in chat for Julia, y'all, and the museum as a whole. They could take it different ways. They could be like, who are these crazy people? Like, they're not a news official agency, or they're just going to, like, come and mess around. And the fact that they sort of looked at the things we've done and said, yeah, okay, y'all can come out, and we trust you to do this. And not only that, we'll help you make it possible. It really is an amazing sort of thing for us. So, again, I'm going to keep saying thank you, because everybody needs to know this isn't us just showing up and doing this with no permission and no support. This is possible because the museum sort of helps us out. And it's also possible because of y'all. Right? The people that are watching back in chat, the massive, ridiculous, I still don't even know what that says at the top of the thing. I'm going to have to read why Champion's name is next to that thing. The massive amount of support that we get from Twitch chats, doing like mission funding, and that's where the gear comes from, and the batteries and the lights and the stream and the backpack equipment. We're able to come out and do the virtual field trips and the sort of cool rocket launch streams and looking at cool space stuff at museums and that sort of thing because y'all keep showing up. So this isn't the sort of thing 3 years ago I would have ever imagined, like, oh, we're going to go sit in an SR-71. When I started playing Kerbal on Twitch, that wasn't something that we ever thought was going to happen, right? And to go from sort of that to this, we've got an IMAX screen, we're sitting in an SR-71, the museum is hanging out telling us these awesome stories with all the volunteers and the museum staff.
Dude, we met the guy that made the engine.
I know, the guy that made the engine, I know. That's why we were late, and I feel okay with it. I do appreciate everybody who watches the show when I get back home and we're messing around in Kerbal or whatever. And I know we're not always out at a museum or something like that, but those sorts of streams and the support we get there is why we can come out and do these sorts of things. So just everybody give yourselves, everyone around us applause and put hearts in there for yourself and all that sort of stuff because y'all make this happen. So I think for now, we're going to go ahead and shut down the stream for the day. We're going to go get ourselves some dinner again. I severely, if you're ever coming through Oregon or even if you're up in Seattle, take a day and come down this way. What are we? We're 3 or 4 hours from Seattle, I think.
3.5, yep.
You can come down and spend a day at the museum. I'll tell you that if you love the sort of aerospace stuff like we love, you won't want to leave the museum because I never want to leave the museum. Not going to guarantee you're not going to sit in the cockpit of the SR-71 or anything, but it's still a lot of cool stuff for you to come and check out. If you're able to come down and check out the museum at any sort of point, there is a lot more at the museum than I can cover on the stream, even in 2 full days. So if you're ever in the position, I highly recommend you come and check out the Spruce Goose and just all the cool stuff they have here. And when you come, tell them Kerbal sent you. Be like, oh yeah, we came because like a month ago the Kerbal guys were there. Anyways, y'all, tomorrow be looking for us in the morning. We have some more cool stuff. We're going to go over to the museum collection and sort of, literally the word is rummage through the museum's collection and see some cool, they have uniforms, they have artifacts, they're just on shelves, the sort of things that they don't even have time to put out in the museum, right? We'll be able to go and look at some of that tomorrow, and then I guess we'll get back to the A10 at some point. We'll have to get back to the A10 and show you the other things that they don't have inside the buildings. There's just a massive amount, but for now, we'll go ahead and shut the stream down. We appreciate everybody hanging out, and that will be me, Das, and all the volunteers here. Thanks to the volunteers as well for setting these things up. Is that a question? You're waving at me.
I'm asking you if you can tell my wife it's okay for me to bring home the A10.
Eon Raptor's wife, it's okay, he has Das's permission, I don't know about the museum, to bring the A10 home and put it in the backyard as like just a place to sit when it's too loud in the house. Sound good?
Perfect.
All right, good. You have to put a lawn chair in the cockpit, remember?
It's already got a chair.
Yes.
There's no cockpit.
Okay, I'll put it on.
Anyways, y'all, again, thanks to everybody for hanging out with us. This has been an absolutely fantastic stream, and we will... Well, hey, Wally, RT9, thanks for the bits there. I appreciate the bits and that sort of thing. We will catch you nerds on the proverbial flip side. Tomorrow, again, more from the museum, and then I'll be heading back home and doing some streams back from the old homestead, kicking off some Kerbal stuff later this week. So again, we're out for now. Later, nerds. I mean, I know I'm still on the screen right now. What? Like, what are you going to do? Go away.